Hello.
Hey everyone. I hope you're ready. This is about to be a new way of looking at relationships that works really, really well. Something that our parents never taught us. Frankly, our parents never heard of. And it's not much different than normal, but it's just, it's a little bit different. And it makes all the difference, right? Would you agree? Yeah.
100%.
So we'll get into it in a moment, like what is the relationship agreement and the process of making that. But first, I think it'd be good for us to just touch on, at least briefly, like the downside of not being intentional about setting up your relationship. Like I know we both have had past people that we've dated, and it just was based on like feelings, or it should be fun to be with that person or whatever, but you didn't actually have a real reason to be together. And sure enough, right, it's fun for a minute, the energy goes up and it's exciting, and then crash. And then you worry about losing feelings, or things change or whatever. And it's like, hey, if you're in the market to just date around and have a fling and you like that up and down thing, okay, right, this video's not necessarily for you, but don't rule it out, because ultimately at the end of the day, isn't what we're all after is to have amazing relationships. Ideally, one solid main relationship, right? That's like, we want relationships with friends and family and stuff like that, right? But in terms of walking through life with a partner, right? And having that, like, that is something that it takes a little bit of care and effort to set it up right. But when you can do that right, it's amazing, because here's a benefit. I'll let you chat in a second, but I'd say here's a main benefit I've noticed from having our setup is that I don't ever have that thought of, oh no, like, is it not going to work? Like, I don't have that thought. It's so amazing because of how we set it up from the beginning. And so you have so much free space in your mind then, when it's not even an option of like, oh, is it not going to work? Like, granted, like
it's not that it's not an option. It's just the certainty you have in the relationship because of how you set it up. That's never something that comes up. It's not. It just doesn't happen. So it's not that it's not an option. It just doesn't exist because of the trust and the clarity and the certainty that you have when beginning your relationship with clarity, with a clear starting point. Essentially is all a relationship agreement is. It's just saying, hey, let's lay out why we want to get in a relationship and what we want to stand by in this relationship and what we want to create with this relationship. Instead of, hey, I like you. Let's go, let's date, let's do this thing. It feels good. And then you have no purpose in that relationship other than the fact that it feels good. And as we know from however many years you've been alive, feelings change. Feelings are fleeting. Feelings are not something you can trust. Trust means it's predictable. It's something that you can see is going to happen over and over again. It's something that you've proven through the test of time. And we've all proven through the test of time that feelings are not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're here to dispel some myths around relationships, and we're just here to share what worked really well for us, as well as I've lost track of how many other couples there are, but there's a lot of couples and people that had been through it all before, right? They had tried the dating. Some even have been previously married and stuff like that, and then obviously got divorced. And it's like that, you don't have to do it that way anymore. And now we've shown time and time again that this method works very well. And so without further ado, what is a relationship agreement? So I'll share a little bit first and just chime in where you see fit, right?
Sounds great. I could be in all your videos just watching you.
Jess listens when I make videos. I have a lot of videos on my YouTube, and she listens and she gives me great feedback too. She's like, wait, why are you doing it there? The lighting's better here. I'm like, oh, thanks. See, that's part of our agreement, right? So in simplest terms, Jess, you said it perfectly, right? And just for anyone who doesn't know us, we've been married, we got married at the end of 2020, December, but we've been together since April of 2019.
2020?
No. Fact check. Right.
Fact check.
We got married in 2020. but we formed.
Also formed a
Oh
relationship
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
2020.
yeah. Okay, yes.
Fact checked the fact checker.
Wow, we need more of that nowadays. Yeah. So we met at the end of 2019. That's
Yes,
what 2019 was. Yes, we
met
met in October.
Yeah.
And then
October
6
2019.
months, 6 months later, then just due to circumstances, situations, everything became obvious to me. Oh, I got to be with Jessica. And we can share more about that in a moment, wherever we see fit. But in April, then it became pretty obvious to me, like, I want to be with Jessica. And I had tried dating different women, things like that. And I just knew, like, I am at the point in my life where I want that stable, committed partner, right? I want that relationship. I want to have a family. I want to be married. I know what's important to me. I know what I'm here to do in the sense of my purpose in my life. And I had a pretty good idea back then. And so I was very clear. And Jessica as well from day one. I mean, even we started just as friends, right? Because I was kind of on and off in a past relationship, and we just ended up working together, and we were friends. And then, what was your take on that from the female perspective? What did you see as that, like in terms of our dating to then the moment where we decided?
From the female perspective, we weren't dating before we started our relationship.
Yeah, no, we weren't. I'm not getting pretend like we were. We're just friends and hang out every once in a while.
Originally, I met Mitchell because we were at a meetup, like a business meetup in Minneapolis, and the second time, so he went to the meetup again, and I went to the meetup again in November. The first time we didn't really talk, but the second time, he mentioned a thing he was doing with this thing called Techno Tutor, and I was like, oh, this sounds so interesting. Like, I've always known that I'm really good with kids and I love education, and I thought I was going to be in like child development throughout my whole life pretty much because I was just so good with kids. And he was just giving a little information about it, and I was like, all right, let's meet up like outside of this meetup and you tell me what you're doing because I'm very interested.
I was basically looking for people to join my team, so I was like, hey Jess, like you should like help me like tutor kids or whatever. So
that was originally where our relationship started and developed. One, as working together, but two, I was a client of his, so I also purchased Techno Tutor from him and he supported me. So it was like client and working together relationship for the first 6 months. And obviously we spent a good amount of time, probably once or twice a week. We saw each other just through different presentations or meetups or, whatever it was. Also, when he was doing some office recruiting, that was like 3 times a week because we were holding orientations and interviews and things like that. So really it was more of a professional relationship at the beginning. And then one day after one of the orientations, Mitchell was just like, we should get together and watch a documentary. And I was like,
that's like what we
that sounds great. I would love that.
Because we knew we were like friends, right? And because we would do meetups and all sorts of stuff. Like we're very active here in Minneapolis where we live. And so I knew Jessica was already kind of like a nerd in a sense of like she liked to learn for fun. And even from the second day we ever hung out, or the time we hung out outside the meetup, we were chatting on the first day of like how we are kind of like-minded and how we're looking at like how can we make the world a better place, stuff like that. So I knew she was into learning. And so I was like, there's a really cool documentary. It's called The Century of the Self.
Wow, that's a good one.
It's really good. It's like this 4-part thing that BBC did, and a lot of our friends and everyone chat about it. And I was like, I don't know if she had ever seen it. And I was like, you know what? That would be fun. We could watch that together. And so, I was like, hey, we should do that, right? We should hang out. And so we did, right? And then, what ended up happening then? And then around that time too, I was becoming really clear on like, oh, I should, like, it makes sense to be with Jessica because...
So in short, he wanted to watch the documentary because he wanted to present to me that we should be in a relationship.
Yeah, basically, I was like, how am I going to bring this up here? We should like go and have a date of sorts, and we just hung out at her apartment. But so that's a little background on us, right? And some of you might have heard that story, you may not have heard it all, but it was, that was kind of how we unfolded. And again, we know other people who they did the relationship agreement but had a very different backstory. So the backstory is less important. It's more just so you can kind of see where we're coming from when we're sharing this.
To know
because
the famous YouTube couple.
Well, because getting
All the
relationship
details.
advice, right, you have to know who are you getting the advice from, right? Is this
Yeah,
someone who's
that's
been
true,
through
that's
divorces? Is this someone who has a bad relationship with their kids? Whatever. It's like we're here, right? We have a kid on the way. Still 5 months out or 6 months out. But it's like we're just other cool people that just like to make an impact and make the world a better place and, run business, that kind of thing. So, right. So April, whatever rolls around, we had this afternoon and I knew, so here's kind of step one is I had to get clear within myself of what are the principles or like, what are the values that I stand by. Right. And we'll use those words interchangeably here because this is kind of a beginner-friendly video, but it really is principles, right? It is basic fundamental, a basic fundamental understanding of your life and like what you're here to do. And so there's certain things that I've looked at for myself, like what am I actually committed to do in my life? Like I'm going to have the best life for myself, right? I'm going to be, for myself and for everyone. Right, that's another key. Is like, who cares if my life is good, if the world is falling apart, right? So I'm going to do what's best for myself and other people, even if I don't feel like it. Another is like practicing self-awareness. I'm taking self-responsibility, so taking responsibility of everything, not blaming somebody or something. I don't know, give as you would like to receive, right? The old phrase, the golden rule, all that. Stuff like that, right? And so I became very clear within myself of this is what I'm here to do with my life. So then by the time I could hang out with Jessica, she could tell I'm not speaking out of like a theory, like I'm actually living this. I'm doing my best to live it every day, right? And I'm going to fall short sometimes, but I'm going to work actively to correct that. So by the time we hung out, we had these, it's kind of like 13 principles and the group like Self-Perfected that we're part of and the Destiny group. It's like these principles they're laid out. You can go to self-perfected.com/principles and you can see them. So you can see them for yourself. And those are the ones I've adopted for myself. They make the most sense to me. And I know Jessica had looked them over once or twice. I had shown them to her. But then we actually sat down. And so this is the real agreement, right? Is we opened up, we just read it off there. I printed it out or something. I was like, hey, Jess. Well, first I just brought up to her. I was like, hey, like here's an update on my life. Like I'm now like single. I forgot exactly how I phrased it, but I was like, hey, look, like I'm looking, for a relationship. And I know we've got to know each other pretty well. I see it makes sense. Like we got to be together. Like, do you have any objections?
That's literally how it went.
Yeah. I'm also like kind of a direct person. And I know Jess is also like pretty direct. And so we were able to just have that like straight up conversation. Plus we're having fun, right? We were like watching a movie and stuff and but I paused the movie, or after the first part of 4, I was like, pause. I'm like nervous the whole time. I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen? I kind of knew what was going to happen, but you're nervous with this kind of stuff. And so I brought that up to her. She's like, okay. She didn't really have any objection. She's just like, yeah, I just want to make sure we can both move at the right speed. Cause she saw I move very fast through my life. She's like, I don't want to, how'd you phrase it? You didn't want to.
I just said that I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with you.
Yeah, and for me, I was like, okay.
He literally said that's not going to be a problem and just went and kept talking. I was like, okay.
Basically, yeah. That was basically it, yeah. And because really, within myself, right, I can move fast, but as a single guy, like, sure, that's some good, but I know I need a woman in my life who's going to walk by my side. And because I can, again, I'm limited, right? If I don't have that for 100+ reasons. So that was cool. Because then I explained to her, look, like I'm moving fast, but I would rather move with you. And who cares? You can move at your pace. I'll move at my pace, but we're still together. So that was cool. And that made sense to you at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. So then what we did, right? So we sat down and we had this list of these principles, and we can put in the description or whatever. We have a whole video explaining each of them. But it's called like, if you're tired of fighting, try this instead or something. I have a relationship support playlist on my YouTube. Just DM me if you can't find it. And we basically sat down and we looked at these, the principles. And we just read the first one. We took turns, right? And I read one of them. And then I was like, okay, what does that mean to you? She explained what it meant to her. I explained what it meant to me. Asked each other some questions. And we said, okay, yep, do you agree to this? Yeah, I agree to this. Okay, great. We just said like, I agree or something like that. We didn't like shake on it or anything. We didn't sign a contract. It's like, just like, actually, like my words mean something. Her words mean something. us saying, I agree, we agree, that actually means something to us because we're going to uphold it, right?
And then I actually had a few things that I also wanted to add. Just like that weren't in those 13 agreements in and of themselves.
So we did the 13, and then she also had said something like, hey, this is also really important to me. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's good to just discuss things that are really important outside of those, like that you want to get married one day. Like that's the purpose of having this relationship. And you want to have kids. You want to
raise your kids with principles as well, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's important to go over those things as well because you want to make sure you're on the same page with that.
Of course.
Because if you agree on that at the beginning, I think that specific point right there, that you're starting this relationship with the intention to get married, is what helps close a lot of those back doors. Is what helps you never even think about like breaking up. It's like at that moment you are committing to that, and you realize that it just takes communication. It just takes patience. It just takes the ability to walk alongside another person and not be afraid like of anything. Not be afraid that, oh, I didn't choose the right person, because that kind of back chat is all just programming from movies and TV shows and things that you watched as a child, of like, oh, there's a better guy out there, or oh, I'm programmed to think that the guy should be exactly like this, and if he's not exactly like this, then he's not the right guy. And that's not physically you speaking. That's not physical reality. That's literally programming. That's like software that got put into your hardware from childhood, now coming out
from a Disney
movie
or something, or like from past relationships too, because you just used a few terms there that if there's like a newcomer to the video, you may not know. She said back chat. That's like that voice in your head when you're talking to yourself. You're like, oh, well, what if there's someone better? Yeah, maybe, but no, I should stay with them. It's like that conversation you're having in between your ears, right? That's called back chat. And that is something that over time, ideally, you can get rid of. So you can just speak your mind all the time, or you have a way to get that out, right? Because sometimes it's not helpful to just speak your mind to your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, right? This is why, like, this kind of intro video, if you want more advanced stuff on this, just like reach out to us or watch the other videos. But then otherwise, that one piece too, I know a lot of people are scared of commitment, whether they saw it in their parents or whatever, friends that have bad relationships and you're scared of that commitment. But that idea of there's someone better out there for me. If you've been out there dating or you've been talking to people, whatever, like if you're with this person and they have agreed to these principles, you've agreed to the principles. Like the idea that there's someone else out there who's going to be better or whatever, there's not. Everyone's going to have their shortcomings. Like everyone, if that person now violates the agreement and then they start, I don't know, doing drugs or something, or they're physically abusive or something, of course, that is grounds to then end the agreement. Of course. So we're not saying no matter what, you got to stick with them. But what I'm saying is you've made the agreement to the principles. They've made the agreement to the principles. That's now how you operate. It's like your code of conduct of sorts. And again, there's going to be times where someone trips and falls and it's okay and you miss out on it. So we'll share at the end of this video of how you can keep it really strong. Because again, this for life now, right? There's going to be ups and downs. But yeah, that idea, I just want to squash that idea of, oh, what if there's someone better for me? Or I feel this type of way towards someone else. It's like, you don't even know where your feelings come from. Right? Like, you don't even know where your thoughts come from. They come from a place, right? It's actually stored within yourself, right? It comes mainly from your childhood. And so the movies and music and stuff, all the music we've listened to of, oh, I broke a Taylor Swift. If you ever listened to Taylor Swift when you were younger, okay, you got programmed, right? Even if you're like, oh, I know it's just a song. It's like, no, she is, wow, I'm just realizing now how much she's probably corrupted the generation of young girls and stuff. But but so that's our point, is like when you're clear and you're in agreement with these principles, and join the Self-Perfected Facebook group, because every Friday night we have a call and it's really, really supportive for people. We always have them recorded too if you can't tune in real time, but then you can see from other people who are like-minded how they're approaching their relationship, their business, their life. Many of us having kids, starting families, growing our families. It is world-class support. And if you haven't actually seen it for yourself, I suggest look at it for yourself and then decide, right? Don't read what people are posting about in the comments. I mean, watch the videos and stuff, like people who do video challenges and all that. But you'll be amazed how we can talk about something as simple as, hey, we want to create the best relationships and the best support and the best community, and people will react to it, right? And so we have trolls and stuff in our comments. It's funny. But it's like, if you actually want the best life, at least hear us out and then decide for yourself. So there's that, right? So Jess then brought up her things that was important to her. I ended up realizing after like a month in that there was another agreement I wanted to add, such as like how we approach our finances. Because at some point we had to like merge our bank accounts and stuff like that, even before we were married. Like we basically merged how we were looking at our money. Because my intent from day one was I'm going to support Jessica to be a stay-at-home mom, right? I don't want her to have to work. If she wants to work on little projects or volunteering or stuff like that, of course she can do that. But it doesn't make sense for her to go out and get a job, spend 8 hours away from the home, let our home fall apart, have to get a housekeeper now and all that stuff. Or when we have kids, like it's best for her to be home with the kids, homeschool them, raise them in the best way, right? And I will make the money. I will take that on. So I realized, okay, we got to get on the same page with our finances. Groceries, here's roughly how much it'll be, right? All the spending and stuff. And there was ups and downs, plenty of times where it was like we weren't fully on the same page. But because we had the baseline agreement of, hey, we're going to do the best thing, not just what comes easy. We're going to be honest with ourselves. We're going to take responsibility. We're going to trust ourselves. All of that, we've grown really fast. And so, yeah, that's the crux of the relationship agreement. It's step one, get clear within yourself of what are the principles you stand for, what's important to you, what would be the best outcome with your life. Once you're clear on that, then step two, sit down with your partner. Again, when it's appropriate. Don't do this on the second date. Again, you can still date. You can have fun. It can be romantic, right? You can have the feelings and stuff. But realize you're not doing it just because it feels good. The purpose of a relationship is not to feel good inherently. The purpose of your relationship is so that you and another can walk side by side in a communion of sorts, where you can then go in your life and really fulfill your utmost potential. And guess what? It's going to feel amazing. It's actually going to feel better than the other relationship
100%.
because you have that trust and understanding of, oh, okay, they're not going to leave me. They're not just going to get up and walk away. Oh, they're not going to, I don't know, they are texting someone at night. You don't even have the thought of, oh, are they trying to cheat on me or something? It's like it doesn't even enter your mind.
Never.
But granted, I know people, all sorts of people are going to watch this. Maybe you've been cheated on before. Maybe you had a bad relationship, stuff like that. Like, I understand. That's why these tools we talk about, techno-tutor and self-forgiveness writing, is so important, because when we experience trauma in the past, it gets buried in the subconscious and we aren't even aware of how it's affecting us. So we can use those tools because they're really working on the subconscious to pull it out, and then you can deal with it. And the right partner that you're in agreement with will walk by your side through that, right? And for the men and women out there, anyone, you're going to have to be very patient in this process. But also, that doesn't mean things are going to go slow. So what happened to us then? So we made the agreement day one, right? We said, I agree to these 15 things, whatever. I think we gave each other a kiss, and then we just hung out.
No, we didn't even kiss on the first night, I don't think.
Really? No, I think we did. I'm pretty sure we did.
I'm pretty sure we just gave each other a hug.
I'm pretty sure I kissed you. I don't know. We'll have to fact check that. Maybe. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was like, there's no way we can't kiss right now, right? So
I don't know.
Well, okay. It was apparently not memorable. I don't know. I gotta.
Mitchell.
And then we.
Well, for sure by the second time we hung out.
Of course, yeah. And so it was really interesting, right? Because I'd never started a relationship like this. All the past relationships is always like, oh, I gotta date the girl. Okay, now we gotta like kiss each other, and then like, oh, okay, now next level and all that, and commitment and all this shit. It's like that ends up becoming it's like a game, right? It's like, and you know how the game usually ends. It ends up with people's feelings getting hurt, feeling betrayed, heartbroken, all that stuff, right? However, this type of relationship, and again, you can see it, Self-Perfected is the main community where you'll be able to meet these people, but like Cameron and Katie, Drake and Christine, Asif and Melat, Kiana Muge, Carl and Megan. I mean, there's just so many couples, right? Seth and Amy. It's like, it's really amazing to see this because it's working out very well for all of us. And many's like Bruce and Kristen, they were on the brink of divorce for a while, and then they started this process, and now they have the agreement, and they're thriving, and they got, I think, 4 kids, if I'm not mistaken, and their family is so much better, and they have awesome. There's all these people, right? So my point is, that's the journey of setting up the agreement, and then ongoing. What we did that we found worked really well is because you go through all this work, right, of creating the agreement. It's not much work, but you do that, right? Then, now you reach the point where, okay, you got that. Now, how do you keep it going, right? Because just making the agreement once, stuff's gonna happen, right? You're gonna, I don't know, have a disagreement or something, or you're gonna violate one of the principles, or it's not that big of a deal. Then you gotta be aware of it and talk about it. So what we did that worked really well was it was like every 2 weeks we just set in the calendar. We're like Saturday afternoon, we'd go on a little date. We'd either go on a walk or do a picnic or go out for dinner or something. And then over that dinner, we would either do one of 2 things. One is we would reread the agreement, the principles, and we just chat about it. Like, oh, how have you noticed this happening? Sometimes it's pretty quick. Sometimes it'd be like a 3-hour discussion, but it was fun, right? We made it fun for ourselves. It wasn't like this tedious thing. It was like, we're literally having dinner and we're like talking about how our relationship is great. And by the end, we always ended up feeling closer, feeling better. It's amazing.
Clear.
Yeah, because we're clear. And so that was cool. And then other times too, we did a variant. So we called it a relationship agreement check-in. It's a check-in, right? And the other one would be where we look at past, present, future. Like, how are things going? We look at the past, like what's going good, what's not going good. Okay? Or the past like 2 weeks. Cool. Now we got to know what to do. Okay. Now, right now, how are things going right here, right now? Cool. And then what's coming up soon? Okay, how do we make sure this goes great? And that is a huge factor as to why we've grown so fast. And I mean, just
100%.
the last little part of this video, because we don't want to make it too long, so that way the beginners are going to be cool with it, right? We have some like hour-long stuff. But it's worth it, right? The stuff that we talk about, it's super important for those who are looking for it. So within a week or so, because that was then when like Drake and them came to visit, and then we were hanging out, and then right after that, I was like, Jess, like I kept driving her back to her apartment. I'm like, you should just like move in. Like, we're ready. She's like, yeah, great. And then we moved her stuff to my apartment after like a week and a half. Because then we were around each other all the time. Then it's like, okay, good. We're looking for like, how do we now get triggered by each other? Because then we can just deal with it, and then we can get even stronger. It was pretty amazing. Like, I mean, we're both pretty easy to get along with people. But there's times, right, where you're stressed out or whatever happens, right? So then you get to work through it. And then after that, then we ended up moving. And so then we rented a house. Because we knew we wanted to buy a house a little bit outside the city at some point. But we didn't have the money for it. We weren't ready for it. So we ended up moving to a rental. We sublet our apartments, so that was cool. And then we rented a home for about 8 months.
Before we did that, though, in July, we booked our wedding venue.
Oh yeah, that was epic. Because I was like, well, we're gonna get married at some point. And then we were chatting about, well, what do we want to do for the wedding? And then we're like, okay, what would actually be the best wedding? We're like, we should get married at the top of the tallest building in our city. Like, it would be amazing. And I was like, and within myself, I'm like, how much is it to get that space? And I'm like, how many people are coming? And how much is dinner? And I'm like, okay, like this is really gonna put me to the test. But I trust myself. I agreed to the principles, and Jessica supported me, right? She doesn't complain. Like, or if there is like a moment where she's like kind of complaining, or I think she's complaining, I'll confront her about it. And I'll be like, hey, the way you said that like was not supportive at all. What do we do? And she's like, oh no, like I actually just meant this. I'm like, oh, I was just reacting. Right, so we're able to have that level of conversation. It's amazing. And so that was really cool. So yeah, then we got the wedding venue booked. And I was like, okay, we got to make it happen. And then I'm building businesses. And then we ended up now looking at a house too, because we knew we wanted to move out of there.
Yeah.
And we just grown fast, right? So we just bought our home.
We rented the house from October September or October through like, well, technically through June. Through June. And then we moved into this house that we own in July of last year. So 2021.
21, yeah. Yeah, and we've been here now, and it's like,
So we started our relationship in April of 2020. And we bought our first house in July of 2021.
Yeah. While living in different places throughout the whole process, building a business, doing our wedding, building community, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I would not be, as the guy, right? For all the guys
much.
listening, I would not be able to do this if I didn't have Jessica. Because she's like my grounding cord for this. Because like I'll get a bunch of great ideas. I'm like doing all this stuff. And then Jess will help me bring it into reality. And then also Jess will have times where she's like thinking about too many things or worried about whatever. And I'll be like, hey, Jess, like what's going on here? And then I can support her. So it's this really cool give and take. And especially as she's really like owned the role of like making our home an awesome place, taking care of the animals, now preparing to have kids, decorating the home, all that stuff. It's amazing because now I feel like soothed by being here. It's like nurturing. And she'll like make me food and do the laundry and all that stuff, right? And she didn't really have an aversion to that at the beginning. But it's like super awesome.
So actually, I didn't have any upfront like arguments to it, but I did have internal aversions that were like, at first I wasn't programmed to think that doing that role was of value inherently, like that it was as good as me going to work and bringing in money. And so I experienced a lot of like stress that I had to work through, a lot of these like back chat about it, emotions about it, just as he was building the business. Obviously he wasn't where he is now, so he had to go through growth struggles and breakthroughs and things like that. But through that process, you know, I'm watching him and I'm just managing the home, and I'm like wanting to bring money in because he's stressed about money at different times, but realizing the value of my role and how it helps him bring in money, and just growing in my ability to see things more from a distance instead of being so caught up in how I feel in that moment was very important throughout this process. So it wasn't like it was like super easy to do, but I always have enjoyed cooking and cleaning and cleaning and organizing are two very different things. I'm not adverse to either, but I am better at organizing. Not that I'm not good at cleaning, but I just, for some reason, really have a niche for organizing.
So yeah, right. So that's her wheelhouse, right? And then for me, it's like manage the finances, build the business, and like focus on like where we're headed in terms of like what are the important things that we have to do, right? Because we've also, in agreeing with the principles, we talk about doing what's best for everyone, which means, okay, we got to look at the state of the world right now. Like this ain't good. Like what are we going to do about it? And so thankfully our business aligns with that, right? Obviously it does. And our community that we build and the types of the vision we have with our homestead and how we're going to have it be an education center where people can learn about self-sustaining practices, how to have a garden, how to raise animals, how to homeschool kids, things like that. So that's our bigger vision of where we're headed, right? And I have my role, she has her role. We come together, we support each other where needed, right? Sometimes I actually haven't done the laundry in over a year, which is amazing. So thank you. Sometimes I make dinner, right? So I'm decent enough at it, right? If she's got too much going on. But yeah, it's really awesome when you have that. And so wherever you're at now, be patient with yourself and like don't beat yourself up. If you're not doing this, like don't go into pity or whatever. But if you see the value of what we're talking about, of having that partner where you can actually trust them and you feel good with them because you're actually on the same page. If you want that, right? This is how you do it. You do that agreement, right? First with yourself, then with them, and then you build in your schedule to check in on it. And as that grows and flourishes, and as you two plug in to our community, Self-Perfected, it's like the best thing because then you have couple friends. And now we go on double dates and triple dates and stuff like that. It's so much fun to have because the opportunity now really can open up, right? Because a lot of people that I talk to, if you're a single guy, I can only go so deep with you in terms of like what we're really here to do, the bigger purpose, the business, all that stuff, like handling lots of money, getting super wealthy, because if you don't have that partner point figured out, you're not gonna be able to handle that level. And for the single women too, it's like, I know you want that partner this is how you do it, right? You got to get clear within yourself. And I'm sure, Jessica, you have stuff, and Katie Cope has a bunch of stuff too on how you can think effectively about getting that partner and everything.
At the end of the day, okay, if you and your partner are not on the same page and you have a child together, that child will experience abuse. It will not be supported to develop effectively. And that, at the end of the day, is really what we're aiming to solve by sharing this information, by leading by example and supporting other people to do the same in relationships, is to be purposeful in what you're doing in the relationship and clear and educate yourself on how to support your children to be raised effectively. That first 7 years of their life is so important. And I know may seem slightly off topic, but it's so relevant, because if you haven't set up your relationship effectively, you won't be able to effectively support the development of that child in the first 7 years. And you thus will have abused that child and not set them up for success. And we want to change generations and generations and generations. And so we have to support each other, and then we have to support other couples so we can then support the next generation, and they can then support the next generation. And that's how you change the world. So that's really what it comes back to.
Yeah. And like, if you look at it from a Bible perspective, right, they talk about the sins of the fathers, right? What we're trying to do is minimize any bit of the sins, the shortcomings that we have, so that doesn't get passed on to the kids. Or if a little bit of it does, the kids are so well equipped, they know exactly how to handle it. So then when they have kids, those kids are on, some next level,
Just like you will do greater than I. Our kids will do greater than we did, because we've had to work through things that were passed down to us, that had been passed down for generations. And now, as we work through those points, our kids won't have to, but there'll still be points that our kids have to work through. So yeah, they're in a better position than we were, but their kids will be in an even better position than they are.
Yeah. And I think one last question that people might come up with is, like, how do you know you're ready? Or like, at what point do you introduce this? And really, you're going to have to see for yourself what makes sense. But I would say today, you can always start with get the principles down. Like, know that for yourself. And then go on some dates, right? Talk to people, right? Ask your friends if they have any like single friends or whatever. And just be ready for it. And don't just sit back. Don't be passive with this, right? This is really important, especially if you want to do something great with your life. Like, that starts today, and you can take action within it. And come to our events when we have events. Like, find the Self-Perfected group. You can find a clubhouse near you. That type of stuff, and being around people can really help you to shift and go to that next level.
Develop self-trust for the first time in your life.
Yeah.
Through being consistent and clear on the agreements you have with yourself, and plugging into a community of other people doing the same.
Well said. All right, so that's how you do the relationship agreement. If you have questions, you got to DM us, and we can help on specific things. And thanks for watching. Please share this with other people who need to see this. Leave a comment with what you learned. And stay tuned. We got more videos coming up. All right, bye. What up, YouTube? All right, give me your next 90 seconds, and this is about to blow your freaking mind. So let's look at your life. Where do you want to be? Are you fully happy with where you're at? Or is there a next level that you know you can get to and also stay at? Right, because it's one thing to get to the next level, it's another thing to stay there. Now, how do you get there, right? So let's look at these people that, society tends to idolize. You got Elon Musk, right? Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, give or take, Oprah, Drake, right? These people that we would say are at the top in terms of their effectiveness. Those people, right? They're also people, right? They got 2 eyes, 2 ears, a mouth, right? A body, a brain. What's the difference? Or what's the difference between them and you? If they're at the top, they have billions of dollars, and you're over wherever you're at with however much money's in your bank account. What's the difference? Right? Is it just they're more intelligent or they got lucky? No. It's very simple. It's called programming. They're programmed for success, and they're programmed to be able to hold on to that success when you're at whatever level of programming you're at. Now, for those of you who are willing to be honest about this and then want to change that for real, guess what? We have a private Discord group that you can join for yourself. Now, there is a requirement. You hop in and you got to get on a call so we can see if you're real or not. But aside from that, there's an elite group of people that are getting to the top and staying at the top, so we can use that influence to actually create a better world once and for all. So if you want to join, join, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Peace.